With that type of cold, hypothermia can really set in quickly and it will kill you. Welcome back to Tampa Bay Diving. My name is Blake and I'm a professional recreational scuba diving instructor and digital content creator. And I make these videos with the sole purpose of helping you improve your dives. Diving has always been a passion of mine, but there are certain types of dives that I've come to realize just aren't worth the risk for me. Today I want to talk about 3 specific types of dives that I've personally decided to avoid and why I think they're just not worth it. Risks are an inherent part of any adventurous activity, and diving is no exception. With great reward comes great risk, but sometimes that risk becomes just too great. The 3 types of diving I'll be discussing today are not for the faint of heart, and for good reason. They can result in serious injury and even death. The potential consequences of these dives are very real, and it's essential to acknowledge them before we even think about taking the plunge. Injuries can range from entrapment to adverse body reactions and even drowning. These risks are not to be taken lightly, and it's crucial to understand the potential cost before deciding to attempt one of these extreme dives. Many experienced divers have been caught off guard, and it's a sobering reminder that even with proper training and equipment, things can still go wrong. These risks are simply too great and the consequences too severe for me to feel comfortable attempting these dives. I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of a dive gone wrong, and it's an experience I'll never forget. The medical bills, the recovery time, the emotional toll, it's just not worth it. And let's not forget the impact it can have on loved ones who are left to pick up the pieces. It's a risk that I'm just not willing to take. When it comes to the first type of diving we'll be talking about, free diving, it's essentially an underwater marathon. You're holding your breath for minutes at a time, diving to extreme depths and pushing your body to its limits. It's an incredible feat, but also an incredibly dangerous one. The physical strain is immense, and the risk of blacking out underwater is a very real possibility. Now, I'm not talking about free diving on shallow reefs while spearfishing or trying to get some lobster or crab. I do that all the time because I'm not going to be going down to depths where I can't easily get back up to the surface. I'm talking about free diving that's anything beyond 30 feet. I have friends who absolutely love it, and some of them dive down to 130 feet and deeper. They enjoy that. To them, it brings them excitement and adventure. To me, I just don't get it. My desire stops at me looking down at a reef from a boat and thinking, there could be some pretty good lobster. Let me grab my mask and fins and pop in and take a look. And that's okay. Every diver is different. And by that, I mean they have different opinions on what interests them and what they want to pursue from the sport. For me, I prefer to have gas strapped on my back for 99% of my dives. The second type of diving is called cave diving. It's exactly what it sounds like. Diving through underwater caves, sometimes with 0 to limited visibility and treacherous underwater terrain. It's like navigating a maze with your life on the line. The risk of getting lost or stuck is extremely high, and it's a nightmare scenario that I wouldn't wish upon anyone. And I know this will draw in a difference of opinion, and even some from my dive buddies. But I live in Florida, just a couple hours south of cave country, where there is a vast network of caves to dive, and plenty of my friends explore them on a regular basis. I've seen videos of some of my friends exploring them and squeezing through tight spaces, some even having to take off their gear to get through them. Now, I'm not one who suffers from claustrophobia, but that just gives me hives. Yes, I navigate through wrecks, but when I do, I generally know the layout and structure to where if something goes wrong, I know the closest way to the exit. With cave diving, that's not possible unless you're at the beginning or the end. The rest of the time, you've got solid rock formation above and below you. If something happens to you in between, you're kind of screwed. To me, I just don't see the appeal in taking that kind of risk. You're not going to see any kind of wildlife that you would out in the open ocean. There's no manta rays, sharks, turtles, etc. down there. Mainly just a bunch of rocks and silt. So to me, it's not very appetizing. Also, I've known far too many cave divers who have passed away from doing the sport, and I've just been to too many wakes, and each and every time it turns me off. I dive caverns quite a bit, but that's the extent to where I'm willing to go. Now, there is one exception that might get me into one of them, and that is the cenotes in Mexico. Those formations I find absolutely beautiful, so if I was ever down there and the opportunity presented itself, I might not be able to say no to an intro to cave course. If you're enjoying this video and want more scuba content, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and ring that dive bell. The third and final type of diving is ice diving. Now, if you've ever watched our other videos, then you'll know that I absolutely hate being cold. I mean, that's why I live in Florida, a subtropical climate versus what most other people endure in northern states. Whenever I see the weather of what other people are dealing with or watching a Buffalo Bills football game, it sends shivers down my spine. No thank you. I like board shorts and flip-flops year-round. That's just the way that God made me. I'm not strong enough to endure a real winter. Maybe Colorado for a couple of weeks for some snowboarding, sure. But living and diving in freezing temperatures, nuh-uh. And I can actually say this with some experience behind my belt. A few years ago, a buddy of mine called me up to Wisconsin to help him with a vehicle recovery. In January. This was in the town of Neenah, right on the shores of Lake Winnebago, just a little bit south of Green Bay. It was all iced over with a fresh layer. I guess you guys up there participate in something called ice fishing. Why? I don't know, but the story goes, a gentleman was fishing in his shanty. He drove out there to it in his truck and parked on what I assume was a thin patch. Well, his truck fell through the ice and went to the bottom of the lake. Thankfully, he wasn't in it, but it turns out that this gentleman didn't have a license through Fish and Game. My buddy got the contract to pull the vehicle out, but didn't have support for this particular job. So he called and asked if I could help. And if you're a friend, or in this instance, a real good friend, if I'm available, I always try to help out my buddies. It's just how I operate because it's the right thing to do, and they'll return the favor. So wearing my dry suit, hood, and all of my gear, the crew cut holes into the ice. We went down, located the vehicle, secured lift bags to it, and floated it to the top. Once at the surface, we had it hooked up and pulled out, and then I quickly ditched my dry suit, dried off, put on all my clothes, sat in the vehicle with the heat on full blast, and drank warm broth until it was time to go. That was an absolute one and done experience. With that type of cold, hypothermia can really set in quickly, and it will kill you. For me, the decision to avoid these types of diving was an easy one. Safety has to come first, and these dives just don't make the cut for me. It's not about being afraid, it's about being smart and acknowledging the risks that are involved and your own limitations. So there you have it. The 3 types of diving that I'll be avoiding from now on. Do you have any diving experiences that made you rethink your approach? Share them with me and everyone else down in the comments below. And if you want to know which courses you should take, check out this video right over here. And be sure to check out next week's video for a new channel update and our annual review. And from all of us at Tampa Bay Diving, I'd like to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas. I'll be back next week with another video, but until then, plan your dive and dive your plan.